Good evening, everyone. I'm Ganesh Padwe. Unfortunately, I'll be your MC today. So, I'm very fortunate to welcome all of you on behalf of the Artha volunteer team in Pune and worldwide. Here we have the panel speakers that you have seen in the invite. We have Ganesh Natarajan, we have Alok Kumar, we have Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj, we have Vishwas Mahajan, and we have Uma Ganesh. Also we have Rajiv Srivastava, who took a flight all the way from Singapore just to be here. He is the founder of Artha Forum. And we have Artha Forum happening in multiple cities around the world. Rajiv will give us in the glimpse of what is this Artha Forum all about. So today we will have an introduction by or kickoff by Mr. Rajiv Srivastava. Followed by that will be a talk by Bhakti Rasamrit Swami Maharaj. After that, we'll have our speakers taking turns to explain their thoughts about the philanthropy and the conscious leadership principles. And followed by all of that, we'll have time for question answers. So, because we have ample time kept at the end for the question answers, so make a good mental or your mobile note of all your questions. We want to make sure all your questions are answered. After that, we will be also meeting over the dinner, and during that time also we can do more question answers. So just a quick introduction to Rajiv. He's a successful entrepreneur. He has already created companies, sold it for multi-billion dollars. At the moment, he is the founding partner for the Basil Partners. That's the venture capitalist firm that invests into the IT services companies around the world. On an average, they are giving more than 15% back in terms of the fund that is. I think it's a $50 million fund that's running at the moment. And he's very involved with Artha Forum with the concept of giving back to the society. So I will invite him first to come and talk about the Artha Forum. Please give him a big hand.
So this is a token of appreciation for So we have a token of appreciation for Ganesh Natarajan. Oops. For Alok Kumar. For Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj. And for Vishwas Mahajan. His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Swami, esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for spending the Sunday evening with us and trying to encourage the Artha Forum Pune chapter. I know today is also a day where there's a big match going on, and so we really appreciate you all taking the time out today and encouraging us. Thank you.
But thanks to Artha Forum India also.
So, Artha Forum is a not-for-profit initiative, and we connect entrepreneurs.
Would you like us to say?
No, don't worry. I'll just I'll just repeat some of the things. It's you'll see more pictures later. This is just the only slide which has content. The rest of the slides will have more pictures. So not
You can still sit there and come back. Don't worry. I think it's
That's better.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we could also see.
So Artha Forum looks to connecting entrepreneurs, business leaders and professionals and bring to them the relevance of our ancient scriptures and how they can be applied in our day-to-day business life. We are also trying to showcase long-term business models where where giving back to society is actually an integral part of the business model. And we are actually going to share how such businesses which incorporate these principles actually do extremely well. And there was a time that India had 27% of the world's GDP, and to the extent that India followed the deep wisdom of our scriptures into into the field of business, it does not mean that you don't do well. You actually do extremely well, and the whole world would look up to India for where they would see that a lot of the wealth was right here. I'm also very happy to state that especially in I would say in the past many years that we've started this Artha forum, that the second generation, the youngsters, they are not interested in simply trying to make more money for the sake of making money. They're all looking to inputs and guidance as to why should they be doing business simply to make more money. In fact, I'll give an example here. My good friend Atul Shah, he's the second generation in the Anchor group. The first generation worked hard for 40 years, sold the business to Panasonic in 2007, and sold for 670 million. When first day when I meet Atul Shah about 4 years ago, he says, Rajiv, why should I do any business? Why should I work hard and take this? Currently the wealth is over $1 billion. Why should I take that to 3, 4, 5 billion? In fact, he said he has one daughter, and he told me that I'm just blowing up my son-in-law's money. I don't want to do anything. Don't ask me to do any business. Now the second generation actually has talent, but today after coming to some of our events, this second generation, and I'm more happy to say the third generation, they are finding a goal like this to make more sense. That is, every new business that they are doing, they are allocating some part of that business for charity, and that has excited the second generation, that excites the third generation. And when the same entrepreneurs they are guided by this higher principle, like we all know Tatas, they have over 60% of their ownership is dedicated to charity, and that doesn't mean Tatas hasn't done well. You can see that they have done extremely well, and the wealth has stayed in the second, third generation. So these are I would say these are the key things that we have at the Artha Forum event. We started in 2012 with an event in Eco Village. This is a place where lots of leaders from all over came, and the people from Silicon Valley, people from other countries, Singapore, Middle East, they all came here. You can see at our events we've had Alfred Ford, who who's a practicing I would say social or a spiritual entrepreneur. So we've had events over the years in different parts of the world, including Dubai, Eco Village, where we have annual events. This is the event in Singapore, which was held in January of 2016. Very happy to share that we had a Chinese Singaporean, Dr. Charles Chow, who's actually written a book on Bhagavad Gita, and his book is on how Bhagavad Gita is applied to business. So we came across a lot of very interesting people. So that is Dr. Charles there. We had Vikram Rao of Crayon Data. We had Sumita, Gautaman, and Subha. All of these are wonderful people who are in the field of business, but they are looking at business in a very different way. This was the event that Bhakti Rasamrita Swami was speaking in Singapore. We have Satpal Khattar. He's the only Singaporean to have to get a Padma Shri from India. Very successful business person and doing a lot for society. Gautam Banerjee, he's the chairman of Blackstone ASEAN. Dave Anderson from Forrester. In fact, Jayesh Parekh, one very interesting thing which I can share about him. He would tell me that, Rajiv, whenever I get events which are spiritual events, he says I never go for them, I find them boring. Then he said that when I get invites for business events, he says they are also capitalist, theoretical people, they also don't know how to really solve the problem. So he says I don't go to those events. But he says this Artha Forum in every Artha Forum event, when I saw that you have got very successful business people and a Swamiji, and the Swamiji is speaking on business. He said, what is this? So he came, he is now one of our biggest, I would try to say, people who are seeing, because at the end of the forum, we are always able to find more and more entrepreneurs who are trying to do business for something, for something higher. This is, the other event which we had in Singapore, where Sanjeev Iyer, he's the PAN IM alumni president, and Artha Forum is an event partner with the IM alumni event in Singapore. This is at the Bombay Stock Exchange, where Ronnie Screwwala was a speaker along with His Holiness Radhanath Swami. And I was just sharing earlier with Ganesh that Ronnie, even when he had just first round of funding that he raised from Rupert Murdoch, and he said we were operating out of a garage, and this is the time when we just moved into an office in Nariman Point, and his heart was always different right from the beginning. And Ronnie Screwwala and his wife, they decided that 10% of the office they are going to dedicate to helping women who want to work, who are trying to work but they have children. So they would start a service for working mothers to come and leave their children in a safe and a nice environment here to encourage them to continue working. So charity was at the core of his thinking right in the beginning. See, most of us feel, let us first become a billionaire or a multi-millionaire, and then we will do something. But you will see that there is a big movement of whatever we call, as Ganesh pointed out earlier, of conscious capitalism. And these entrepreneurs, right in the beginning, they always are thinking of incorporating some give back to society. And sure enough, it is not a surprise that Ronnie grew his business to and sold it to Disney. And today he has Swadesh Foundation and is doing wonderful work. This is Marcy Shimoff. She is the author of the book. Actually, the book is Chicken Soup for the Soul, but she's a vegan and a vegetarian, incidentally. But a very famous lady. We have Venk Shukla. He might be there in the in one of the audience. He is the president of Thai Worldwide. In fact, we had one event at the Thai Santa Clara office. We have Tulsi Gabbard. She is actually the only Congresswoman who took the oath on the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, when Prime Minister Modi came to the West, she personally presented him her copy of the Gita. Wonderful, Congresswoman, and she came for our event. This is this is an event which was held by one of our participants, one of the members who came to Artha Forum from Dubai. He said, I'd like to host it in the only 7-star hotel in the world, and the topic of that event was plain living, high thinking. But we had a lot of the leaders who came, and it was nice event, and we hope many of them have changed after coming to this event. This was one in Mumbai. This is at Princeton, where Alfred Ford was, as you can see, in there on the panel, along with Dr. Naveen Mehta, Hiten Patel, and Vikram Gulati. These are a few of our speakers who have come to our events. Ajay Piramal, he's a great practitioner. Rishikesh Mafatlal, Dr. Achut Samanta, I don't know if some of you have heard of him. He's doing a lot of wonderful work for tribal children in Bhubaneswar. He, I think, supports over 25,000 tribal boys and girls, and he's truly a person who I hope someday gets a Nobel laureate for the work he's doing. Satpal, Gautam, I shared with you before. These are the other speakers. This was the response, and these are some companies that have incorporated this giving back in their in their business model. There are several more entrepreneurs who I haven't listed here, but that's what we are trying, in a sense, do. That in fact, I'll just end with one simple observation. in 2014, there were 81 people who had more wealth than 3.5 billion people. In 2015, sadly, the numbers are worse. It is 62 people have more wealth than the bottom, 3.5 billion. So while we all agree that communism is a failure, socialism is also bad, and we think that capitalism is the only answer. But capitalism in its current form has got to change. And even when I meet World Economic Forum, everybody is grappling with what is the business model, what should be the model for capitalism in the future. And that's where I'm just trying to say a lot of thought is coming, and these are words like we are hoping to hear from Swamiji and my esteemed panelists as to how can there be capitalism with a conscience. So we still want people to be driven, motivated to do extremely well, but so can the two coexist? So these are questions which we hope we'll have some answers to. Thank you so much, and I'll just request His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj to speak soon.
So I have the fortune to introduce Swamiji here, and it will be brief. His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami is a Bhakti Yoga practitioner, a scholar of Vedic scriptures, and an eloquent speaker. A spiritual teacher and guide, a community builder. Well known for his well-balanced, pragmatic and dignified demeanor, His Holiness travels around the world, Western world as well as different continents, and he provides conversations to people right from the billionaires to farmers about simple living and high thinking. He has done his Bachelor of Engineering from the MS University Baroda, and he has also done his MBA from the NMIMS in Mumbai. So how many spiritual speakers in India you find with academic education such as MBA? Plus he has also worked with the bank in an executive role before he took up the spiritual life as a full-time activity. I would like to invite him here and talk about the simple living, high thinking, also the conscious leadership. So please welcome him.
साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादां सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रविष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य दोषधारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे। Can you all hear me at the back?
Not very clearly.
Just take the mic later.
For this mic. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Esteemed members of the panel, Mr. Alok Kumar, Mrs. Uma Ganesh, Mr. Ganesh Natarajan, Mr. Vishwas Mahajan, Mr. Rajiv Srivastav, organizers of this program, ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely happy and honored to be here amongst all of you this evening to speak on a topic that I think is very, very important: conscious leadership. I did a bit of a Google search before I came and I was told about the topic. And I saw that there are many institutes that deal with conscious leadership, so apparently it's quite a buzzword in the corporate world. I wasn't aware of it so much. But anyway, I thought that I would present a slightly different perspective And since the purpose of Artha Forum is to provide solutions or perspectives based on Vedic wisdom for modern business, I would like to dwell or draw from certain principles from the Bhagavad Gita for the purpose of my discussion. But that a little later. We begin by talking about leadership. Can we imagine a world without leaders? No, we can't. And here I don't refer only to political leaders. Political leaders are only one very, very, very small segment of the leadership that is provided to people in this world. You have leadership not only in the political field, you also have it in the military field, in the economic field, social field, the cultural field, religious field, spiritual field, domestically also. So leadership is seen and is necessary in every segment of our society in the world. And I don't think I would be exaggerating when I say that every one of us is actually a leader. Not in a flamboyant, dramatic sense, but in the sense that one is in a position to influence the minds and actions of others. We may have many technical definitions of who a leader is, but this is one of the simplest definitions that you can have. A leader is one who has a capacity or is in a position to influence others. Positively or negatively is another matter. For example, consider a scenario we see unfortunately all too often in India. A mob gets together, riots, burns down a few buses and cars, breaks up a few things. Now these people are leaders. Why? Because they are influencing a whole section of the social community. They're sending out a message that if you're disgruntled, you have some grievances, this is the way to air your grievances. This is what you must do. And many impressionable minds get influenced. So that's bad leadership. Now they're probably not firebrand leaders making all kinds of speeches and everything, but the fact that they're there on the ground doing what they do sends a message. So every one of us today has a responsibility to act in a way that will be for the good of the world. If we are going to act irresponsibly at any stage of life, whatever the section or segment we belong to, it will have repercussions. Now today, since we are talking of leadership specifically within the context of business, we are talking about leadership in the economic field. Even a family, like a mother and father, are leaders for their children. The teacher is a leader for the students. So also business leaders, those who have accomplished something significant in the field of economics, in the field of business, are also leaders. Not just for those in their own company, but also for people in society in general. What kind of aspirations do the people today have? Rajiv made a brief reference to communism and socialism. That was actually the theme of our Artha Forum program in Singapore, where we discussed sustainable capitalism, whether such a thing is possible at all, considering the way that the world is going today. In capitalism, we have the corporations, the business people who reign supreme. In communism, it's the labor class that reigns supreme. So there are various political and economic models where different people reign supreme. But in capitalism, business has a pride of place. And therefore, there is a special responsibility upon those who are in leading positions in business to act in such a way that sets a good example for the people at large, not just within the company, but also outside. Today, many of the role models for young people in India, or maybe even internationally, are people in the business field. You may have people talking, more people I guess, talking about Bill Gates or Warren Buffett. as you have maybe for some film star or some sports star or something. It's at least comparable. Many people know about them. Similarly, in India, you may have certain industry leaders who people talk about. So if those industry leaders set a bad example, then that also sends a signal that it's all right for us who are beginning our careers in business to do the same, because that's how we move up the ladder and that's how we become successful. So therefore, in business, in corporations, there are many, many dynamics involved, many, many issues involved, many complexities, and leaders have to deal with them. And as Rajiv mentioned again, what is the purpose? What is the kind of effort involved, and what kind of profits? So today's talk is essentially on conscious leadership, purpose, passion, and profit, the three goals. Now I thought that I would draw from certain concepts in the Bhagavad Gita. And before I do that, I want to give a background. I suppose some of you have already read the Bhagavad Gita, and some of you may not have read it. But for those who haven't, a brief introduction. I'm going to talk about a concept that's a very, very useful tool that can be applied and used in all sections, in all ways in life, in every department of our life. And that is the concept of the gunas, or the three modes of material nature, called the mode of goodness, sattva guna, the mode of passion, rajoguna, the mode of ignorance, tamoguna. The idea is that everything in this existence can be understood, classified, or seen from the point of view of these three modes. Everything, whatever you can think of, it's an all-pervasive concept in this existence. Whether it is food, whether it is entertainment, whether it is a form of worship, whether it is personality types, whether it is determination, faith, anything and everything in this world can be classified according to the three gunas, three modes of material nature. So also when we speak of leadership, and especially conscious leadership, then this concept of the three modes of material nature is especially effective and useful. So I would like to list out some of the characteristics or the psychological attributes of these three gunas. The topic is huge, so I will not deal with it in great detail, but just in as much as is required for our discussion today. So first of all, if you don't mind, can we have that? So first of all, I'll talk about the psychological symptoms or the attributes of sattva guna, which means these are the qualities. Put it in the PPT format. So these are the qualities that a person in the mode of goodness will have in the sattva guna. Please note that these gunas or these attributes or qualities do not exist independently in isolation. Usually they are mixed. They're a combination of these two or three modes that we find. So mostly people will have some degree of the mode of goodness mixed with the mode of passion and ignorance. Some will have more of the mode of passion, little bit of goodness, little bit of ignorance. Some will be more in the mode of ignorance, and so on. So let's see how we can understand these concepts and then try to have a perspective on leadership. Okay, thank you. Which one here? I'll go quickly down this list. One of the symptoms of a person in the mode of goodness is that he or she is contented, has knowledge, is happy overall, likes intellectual pursuits, has clear understanding, has purity, there's cleanliness, external as well as internal, there is morality, mental soundness and balance,
spiritual inclination, clear senses, calm and peaceful. The person does not strive to satisfy the unlimited desires that exist in the mind. There is self-control, discrimination between good and bad. The person in Sattva Guna is dutiful and responsible, is determined, is enthusiastic, not overly so though. Doesn't brag or boast about his or her achievements, is equal in success and failure. This principle of detachment is, of course, as you all know, one of the important principles of Bhagavad Gita. Is truthful, is sympathetic and sensitive by nature, is kind, and very importantly, is mindful of past and future. Which means that before deciding on certain courses of action, the person thinks carefully, considers the matter, consults, thinks about the past when the same action may have been done, thinks about the conditions that existed in the past, a background, a history, then thinks also about the future in terms of what consequences these actions may have. After a well-considered or appraisal of the past and the future, then the person takes a decision. So this is how a person in Sattva Guna acts in the mode of goodness. Some more. There's also one identifies one's spiritual, or understands one's spiritual identity. One understands that we are basically spiritual beings. We are not just a bunch of chemicals and atoms. I think it was Mark Twain or somebody who said that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but rather we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So we're right now in the human form of life, but essentially we are spiritual entities. And neglect of our spiritual facet or aspect can only be to our peril and detrimental. The person in Sattva Guna is also instinctively religious, is generous, and feels embarrassed at acting improperly. We are humans. To err is human. We may all make mistakes. We may do awkward things on occasion. But a person in Sattva Guna will feel embarrassed. Sattva Guna person is patient, steady, sensible, conscientious, and has clear thinking, a clear head to make decisions and to see things in the proper perspective. Now, these are some of the characteristics of a person in the mode of goodness. Now we can all consider how many of these we have, think in our mind, and try to judge our own personalities and our own styles of working. So then we have after this the mode of passion, which is called, also the person abstains from worldly enjoyment. Not necessary that one has to be a sannyasi or something, but the general principle of excessive enjoyment of the world is something that the person is very careful of, is very measured in the pleasures of life, the so-called pleasures of life. So the psychological symptoms of Rajaguna, the mode of passion, is characterized by intense emotions. Probably that's what's happening right now on the television. I heard there's a cricket match, you said, yes? Intense emotions. Action-oriented. There's desire for more and more. Ye dil mange more. Restless. The person is always restless. On the move all the time. Wants to get bigger and better. And there is a strong desire to enjoy worldly pleasures. Is also fickle. May change opinions, may change his or her mind quickly. Is anxious. That's the nature of Rajaguna. Rajaguna brings anxiety, it also brings grief. There are many worldly aspirations. There's a bundle of hopes and desires and aspirations. And doesn't spare any effort to achieve the goals. But when the gain comes, is dissatisfied because he or she wants more, and is therefore subject to joy and sorrow, goes through the dualities and ups and downs of joys and sorrows of life, may lack moral and physical purity to the extent that the person in the mode of goodness has, is bold, arrogant sometimes, falsely proud. So you may have certain pictures coming up in your mind. When you read all these characteristics, even people you know may be coming up in your mind, or people you know of. As I said, please note, these are not black and white watertight categories. It's always mixed up. So you have people who have characteristics from 1, 2, 3, all of them combined in certain ways. The person may also be falsely proud, claims exaggerated personal importance, is envious of others' achievements, desires rapid success, seeks favor of people of influence and power, considers himself bigger and better than others, is rash and eager to fight. I was mentioning this incident the other day. I was traveling on a train and I had a group of young military army captains who were in the compartment on the other side, just next to me. I was on this side and they were on the other side. And in every half an hour they were getting into fights with people. They had just finished their commando training. The TTE came in and one or two of them didn't have the right ticket. So they got into a huge fight. And then every station that they got down and they would get into a big fight with some stall owner or somebody. One of them would do something or say something and they would end up fighting. So that's the spirit in the mode of passion. You know, when you're in the military, when you fight, you have to be something like that. Can be hostile and violent also. Likes to hear himself being praised. There's a tendency to ridicule others. Justifies action by his strength. So this is the mode of passion. Now the mode of ignorance, that's not something we want to really be associated with much. So I'll go down quickly because we don't want leadership in the mode of ignorance. That's not good. Ignorance, apathy, indifference, laziness, sleep, confusion, insanity. One is wrathful, lacks generosity, is unwilling to share with others, is untruthful, is violent-natured, apt to quarrel, depends on others for survival, is hypocritical, chronically fatigued, laments a lot, is under delusion, gets depressed often, has a self-destructive nature, has false hopes and expectations, and is fearful. And some of these characteristics in the mode of goodness, you can see that's something we really don't want a leader to have. And even in business, you don't want a leader who is not generous. You don't want a leader who has many of these qualities. But we do see them sometimes. Maybe you can go straight to 10. That's the last slide. Okay, so the person in tamoguna, or the mode of ignorance, procrastinates, keeps delaying. No endeavor despite capacity. Has the ability to do it, but doesn't put in the endeavor. Drags on forever that which can be done in a short time. Have you seen a child eating a meal? Eats something now, goes away somewhere, comes back after 5 minutes, a little something, again, goes, comes. So children in that stage are influenced a great deal by the mode of ignorance. Addicted to intoxicants, unclean, untidy, disorganized. So now, think about it. Can we come back to the first one, please, if you don't mind? Yeah. Let's apply these principles to leadership in the business world. So are these the things we want our business leaders to have? Do we want our business leaders to be like this? Now remember that there are certain things in the mode of passion that are necessary. Passion is not a bad thing in and of itself. When passion is misdirected, that can cause havoc. When passion is misdirected, it usually progresses or degresses into the mode of ignorance, and one becomes very harsh and unnecessarily violent and angry. But when mode of passion is controlled by the mode of goodness, then you can have passion or energy, enthusiasm that is gainfully channelized. You see, nothing can happen in this world without the mode of passion. So passion is required for creation. Passion is required to do anything. It's action oriented. So we'll just come to the mode of passion first before we get back to the mode of goodness. So action orientation is necessary in any sphere of life, whether it is business or any other sphere. At the same time, certain things may drive us, a certain degree of boldness may be necessary. So certain elements of the mode of passion are good, they're necessary, and can be utilized for the larger good of the world, for one's business and society and so on. However, even though the passion is here, now remember our topic is purpose, passion and profit, conscious leadership. So the passion part of it is here in the mode of passion. So that's good, that's necessary. At the same time, what gives the purpose? It's the mode of goodness that gives us the purpose. If the mode of passion is allowed to set the purpose, then you will have all sorts of things happening where greed runs rampant. So we have so many scandals in the business world, stock exchange collapses and many other things. Why are these things happening? These things are happening because of unbridled greed. When passions run riot, when passions are not tempered by the mode of goodness, then one's purpose in life is driven just by greed, by selfishness. And so one thinks that my goal is to make money and enrich myself at any cost, even if it means that my actions will harm other people. And therefore we see many corporations in the world in the last few decades have done so many things driven by the mode of passion, not being tempered by the mode of goodness, because they have been driven only to get profits. And even if it means they destroy, for example, the environment, or they destroy certain social norms and cultural aspects of the societies that they function in, they don't worry about it. So long as they get their profit, that is what they're concerned with. Now, I cite this example often. There was one, or there is one, very well-known consumer products company that sells certain food items all over the world. A very big name. So there was one lady who was the director of marketing of this corporation for Asia or South Asia or something like that. So she happened to meet somebody I know who's also in the field of business. And in the course of social conversation, she mentioned, you know our business strategy for India? Because they were selling cereals and all that, you see. Our business strategy for India is to do propaganda in such a way that will make people in India stop cooking at home. Right? Because in culture in India is you cook your food at home and eat hot food. Freshly cooked hot food. That's the tradition. That's what we've been doing. Your breakfast is something like that, your lunch is likewise, and so also dinner. But then if you're going to cook everything, then who's going to buy these cereals? So then their strategy, their advertising is all based on this one point. So now that's an ethical issue. Should a business that is driven by the need for profit have the right to deliberately make a frontal assault on social and cultural practices like this? Is it a good thing? A matter of discussion, a matter of debate. Or let's take another corporation which in the course or the pursuit of the bottom line of profits and so on destroys the environment. Large scale, massive destruction of the environment goes on. Now, because they want profits, they want to be number one. And there are any number of stories of various kinds in which we know of how corporations have run riot simply because the greed has run riot. Because there are the values and ethics that they are driven by are not in the mode of goodness. So we need passion, we have to tap that passion, but if the head is not in the mode of goodness, then we are going to have a very unpleasant situation. So the purpose has to be given by the mode of goodness. The action part of it, the mode of passion. And ignorance is something we'd rather do without. We don't want that. So then, coming back to the mode of goodness. Yes, let's look at do we want our business leaders to have these qualities? Do we want them to be contented or unnecessarily greedy and restless, to have knowledge, happiness, have an intellectual pursuit, have purity, in all these qualities here? Okay, I'll leave these qualities with you for a second. You're all business leaders. Would you like to have these things? Yes. Would you like to have these qualities? Yes. Let me tell you a little story from the Ramayana. You know, when Lord Ram was about to cross the ocean, he was about to get into Lanka. At that time, Ravana called a council of his ministers and advisors and asked them for some advice. Now he knew that Ram would be coming very, very soon, and he had a very large army. So then he gave a speech. Now surprisingly, Ravana's speech is something here in this context that we can learn from. Normally Ravana is not the person in whose footsteps we would like to follow. And he said, my dear friends, I've called you here for a very special purpose because I want to decide on the course of action. And according to the way a person decides the course of action, he or she is classified in terms of three categories: superior, mediocre, and inferior. A superior person is one, before embarking on an action or a course of action, consults with superiors and with friends who have a common interest, takes their advice, thinks about it, and once he's convinced, then embarks on the course of action with full energy at his or her command and depends on destiny for the result. The person who is in the mediocre category is one who thinks over the matter himself or herself and then acts in the light, according to the light of his own intelligence. That is how the mediocre person acts. A person in the inferior category is one who is whimsical, who doesn't have a sense of duty, who is faithless, who doesn't discriminate or cannot discriminate between what is beneficial and what is harmful, is adamant about doing certain things because it strikes his or her mind, and does it regardless of what others say, saying, I will do it no matter what. So the person who acts like that is in the inferior category. So we are all confronted with decisions, with courses of action that we have to take. Now if you reflect, the first category that he talks about being superior relates to the mode of goodness, although he specifically doesn't say it himself. In the second category, where the person relies only upon his own intelligence, that's the mode of passion, because he feels, I don't need to consult anybody else, I'm bright, I'm good enough. And in the third category, there's no sense of discrimination. There is no judgment, there's no sense of judgment, what's right, what's wrong, what's beneficial, what's harmful. It's not there. So what kind of leadership style do we want? We want a leadership style that is predominantly in the mode of goodness, or rather shall we say, which is driven by the mode of goodness and which has certain elements of the mode of passion. So the creativity, the innovativeness, the drive to set up business, to do business, it needs a lot of drive. It needs a lot of enthusiasm. So initiative, these are all qualities of the mode of passion. Good attributes. So they have to be dovetailed. So in conscious leadership, if one strives according to the guidance that is offered by attributes from the mode of goodness, then the profits will automatically be there. And even if the profits are not there, they will come at some time. One is not overly disturbed. You see, there are so many factors in life that are responsible for profit or loss. It's not just a certain efficient functioning of the company. There may be environmental factors. There may be a whole lot of other factors that may intervene. Anyway, that is another topic. But the point is that profit is not the sole consideration. And this was also mentioned by management thinkers way back in the 1950s. Thinkers like Peter Drucker and so on, they recognized that profit is not the sole motive for corporations. But somewhere down the line, even that kind of philosophy has got left behind in the last few decades. It is only in the last short period of time that we are witnessing a slow revival of ethical business. People are becoming more and more aware of terms like conscious leadership. So therefore, to conclude, I would like to say that conscious leadership in business is that which is suffused with the mode of goodness, in which the drive and innovativeness and initiative and enthusiasm comes from the mode of passion. So therefore, the corporations driven by such a philosophy will be very ethical in their dealings. They will be very careful to set their goals right. It's not enough to have a purpose, you must have a right kind of purpose, a purpose that will not be harmful to the world at large. They carefully consider what their goal should be. It's not just a question of striking any goal and then working hard to achieve it. So the mode of goodness regulates what kind of goals we should have in the first place. What should be our purpose? And we have principles like being generous, for example, sharing with others. A business model where one is extremely selfish, where one doesn't want to share, is not a model of conscious leadership. Today we have a government-enforced stipulation, corporate social responsibility, right? You have to keep aside a certain portion of your profits or your income for some socially relevant activities. So why does the government have to do such a thing? It should be done from individual businesses. If it is driven by the principle of conscious leadership, fortified by the mode of goodness, the sattva guna, then automatically businesses will be like that. Businesses will like to share their wealth, their profits with everybody. The Indian culture is basically a culture of sharing and giving. It is not a culture of grabbing and exploitation. So therefore, whatever we earn, we share with others. And the more we share, ironically, the more we get. This is the whole principle. Not that I want to earn for myself only. No. In fact, the Vedic culture goes so far as to say that a person who lives only for himself or herself lives a life in vain. So selfishness is looked down upon in Vedic wisdom. One is expected to live for the sake of a larger goal, for the larger service to the humanity and to the world at large. And that is the implication of conscious leadership. So a business that recognizes its social responsibilities, its environmental responsibilities, its cultural responsibilities, It recognizes its responsibilities to its employees and stakeholders, to all the people that come in touch with it, that are driven by these noble principles, will be the ones that will sustain. And these are the ones that the world needs for today. So I will stop here. I think I've just about crossed my time limit. I thank you very much for your kind attention, and questions you will have later or now.
So, thank you for the wonderful class, Maharaj. We would invite the panelists to ask you questions. Having said that, we will have our panelists speaking as well, and at the end, the floor will be open for all questions. So be ready for that as well. So do you guys have any questions?
First of all, I think it was fantastic. The way you articulated it, the way you put it up in such simple words, I think thank you very much. It's really amazing. But how does one actually make this transition? Have you seen people who have been very high on passion and emotion and driving from the front make the transition over what period of time to Sattva Guna?
I can give you one example here, Sir Rajiv Srivastava. Of course, he was always like that. But he is also driven by a certain passion. But he is controlled by a higher mode. He is driven by this to do business. His sole aim in life is to run businesses so that he can give for charity. That's the reason he does businesses. Otherwise, he has no interest in business. He'd rather do so many other things.
Rajiv, we should give you a hand.
Yes. And we also have Sanjay Balaram here. There could be many others whom I don't know. So Sanjay Balaram is also partnering him with a similar philosophy, similar ideology. They sold the company. They take a company, they grow it, and then when it's big enough, then they sell it, and they give most of the money to charity. So they do business for that purpose. Now, what a refreshing change, isn't it? What a different model, an orientation or an attitude towards business. That I am doing business for the sake of giving to the world, not for the sake of taking from the world. So here are some examples.
Maharaj, I have another question.
Yes.
You mentioned about businesses which become successful, they make money, and then they want to make the money available for charity. But I like to understand, not every business may reach that level, or maybe they will reach that level, but in that journey, various characteristics that you spoke about, how do you make the transition from passion, being driven only by passion, to some of the characteristics that you spoke about for Sattva Guna? Which ones do you choose? How do you balance those such that you really find that the endeavor that you're working towards is meaningful?
Thank you. That is a good question also. It needs a mentor. Yes. It needs a guide. A guide who is able to show us the way, who is able to extricate us from the tangle of intellectual cobwebs that we may get into in trying to figure out how to get into the mode of goodness. Practically also, what should we be doing? Actually, the principle of your question really boils down to how does one enter into the mode of goodness, or if one is already substantially in the mode of goodness, how does one strengthen that? Everything in the world happens by the principle of association, company. We are what we associate with. So if we associate with people who have a certain kind of habit, then we also cultivate that habit, or that liking, or that inclination. It all happens by company, by association. So similarly, if we associate with the mode of goodness, then we will also get more of that. What does it mean to associate with a mode of goodness? It means to associate with people who are in the mode of goodness, with places who are in the mode of, which are in the mode of goodness, with activities that are in the mode of goodness, and so on. So when we associate with mode of goodness in all its forms, then it rubs off on us. And we begin to, it shines because mode of goodness means knowledge. It means clear thinking, freedom from confusion. So with a clear head, we understand, actually this is how I want to run my business. This is what I want to do with the money that I am earning. I may not be in a position to do so many things that I want to do, but in whatever situation I am now, this is how I will do it. I will share X% of what I earn for the world. This is the principle. And then gradually as we move into that, we start reading some spiritual literature, we start actually realizing that there are higher goals in life, and everything crystallizes slowly. I hope I answered that question.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you.
So just wanted to understand, you talk about giving. When the giving starts, is there a limit where you say, okay, first I'll satisfy myself and I reach a level, suppose there's a X, and after that I start giving, or it's an act of giving at any point of time and it only becomes more. So how do you start that? How do you have the feeling of giving in any person inculcated?
There's a Sanskrit proverb you must have heard, Shubhasya Shikram. For a good activity, start ASAP. Start immediately. No need to delay. We may not be in a position to do more, but whatever we can do, we should do now. Why should we wait when there's something good at hand to be done? Procrastinating again, we saw it. In which mode does it come? Yes? So when something is good, it needs to be done, we should do it. Yes.
Swamiji, I think a very interesting perspective. And relating that to the business, that actually kind of combines two seemingly unrelated aspects, the profit, motive, business, etc., and the sattva gun, as you mentioned. Many times in business, people are trying to first stand on their own feet. At that phase, where majority of businesses seem to find themselves, where do they actually create an opportunity for giving back? There are businesses that have been there, they have arrived, and now they are on to the mode of giving. There are infinitely large percentage of businesses that have not reached that phase. So my question to you is, how do they inculcate some of these things while they're struggling to find, that phase? That's what they're going towards. During that journey, how do they find that?
Noble things cannot be given up in adverse circumstances. Noble things must be done at any time. It's only that when the going is not good, we cannot do much. Whatever little we can do, we should do. Consider the case that you have mentioned of a company that is in a startup phase. They have a lot of loans and they are struggling with business. And should they be giving something in charity? Isn't that what it comes down to, your question? Yes.
The charity, of course, the connotation of charity, as we hear, is giving money.
Yes, that's one aspect.
One aspect. But I think my point is that, yes, to add to what you're saying, there's so many other things they give,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So how do they consciously do that?
You see, it's just like every business or every individual has obligations, isn't it? We are obliged to pay our employees. We have to give something to the government. We are accountable to the public, so on and so forth. So let's consider this is one of our obligations. We factor that into our calculations. It's one of the must-dos, that just as we have to do this, we have to do that, we also have to keep this in mind. There are many people I know who have set up their business with the understanding that a certain charity will be entitled to 10% of the profit, but nothing in the loss. So they actually make a whole agreement like that. And they say there are 2-3 partners, and they all agree, and they say we'll take 30 of the profits when they come, and when they come then the 10% will go here. But loss we will share it equally amongst 3 of us. So these are different ways of doing it. We consider that as an important obligation that we need to do from day one.
Good point.
Okay, so I think perhaps.
So we're gonna hold back the questions for everyone when all the panel speakers will be available to answer those questions. So thank you so much, Swami.
Thank you very much.
Give a big hand. So as the next speaker, I would invite Mrs. Uma Ganesh to come and share her thoughts. Yeah, all the panelists can be here now.
Hello. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this evening's deliberations at Artha Forum. This is indeed a wonderful. Sorry. Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, my fault. Here is my fortune to introduce Mrs. Uma Ganesh. As from the name you can make out, she is also wife of Ganesh Natarajan. She is also the CEO of Global Talent Track. She has co-authored books with Ganesh as well, and we're very fortunate to have her here as a woman entrepreneur in the happening place like Pune. She's an inspiration for so many other women entrepreneurs as well around the world. And I come from USA. I moved here a year and a half back, and there is a view about India in the Western world, and the view is women are not very empowered. But when I meet with personalities like Uma Ganesh, I take them as a great example. I can go back to America and I talk about my experience in Pune, about how we have very empowered personalities over here, making the difference, finding the niche in the society, and creating a business that is thriving and adding value to the society. So please give her a big hand by welcoming her.
Thank you very much, Ganesh, for that generous introduction. So I'm really excited to be here in this forum today to share some perspectives on this theme of conscious leadership and what is it that as an entrepreneur or a business could be doing in his journey towards success. So the starting point is to define what is success. For most of the businesses, success is profit, success is listing in the stock exchange or exit for the investors and so on. While those are definitely important parameters, for me the definition of success has been little different right from my very early days. And I think that is primarily has been because of, probably because of influences of 2 personalities in my life. One is my great granduncle, that's my grandmother's brother, who in his very early age, at the age of I think 25, he decided to be part of the Ramakrishna mission. And he was the person who went and set up the mission in Mauritius and later in London. And he devoted his entire life towards propagating the philosophy, particularly around Vedanta. And while I was very young, and I think he attained Samadhi in the late 1968 or 69, so I hardly had any interaction with him. In fact, we discovered about his discourses, the tapes, the books that he wrote, Vedanta magazine that he used to bring about, that he edited much later when my sister went to London for her work, somewhere in the 80s. But somewhere in the family there was always mention about what he did, what he gave up, what he stood for, and how he supported my grandmother, who became a widow at the age of, again, 25 or 26. And she had to bring up 4 small children, all by herself, at a time when the society believed that somebody who becomes a widow has to be kept in one corner of the house, she decided to do something different. She cast away her 9-yard saris, she wore a 6-yard saris, she went up to the Travancore Maharajas, inner circle, managed to get a job in the government press, and so on and so forth. But the reason I'm mentioning about my grandmother is that she had a very, very tough beginning in her life. And then over a period of time, the children did well, and so on and so forth. But, she lived to the ripe age of 109, and she just passed on 2 years back. The memories of growing up with her has always led to, at any point of time, whatever she had, she was always giving and giving and giving. Although she had very, very frugal means, whatever she had, she was always saying, okay, let me give it. What can I give you? What can I give? Not only family, but people around her. Somebody she meets for the first time, she will look at her purse, whatever she had, she will give it to them. That sort of, I think, influenced us a great deal. And for me personally, the shift in terms of what I really want to do, the calling for me in my life, actually came about probably 10-15 years ago. And you're working in the business. I worked for different companies. I could have gone on, continued with those companies, taken on significant leadership positions. Opportunities came along my way, and I was in a pretty fast and successful track record with some of the blue chip organizations. But somewhere down the line, I had this inner calling that I want to do something which really impacts people, but I want to do this with my own money, with my own effort. And that's really the genesis for this company, Global Talent Track, where this is something that we set up about 7 years back. A lot of struggle to figure out how we're going to construct the model. We are fortunate to get a couple of investors, Intel and Cisco and Helion Ventures early on. But even after that, the model, what the government can do, what is the definition of skill development, how do we motivate young people to take on to this journey, and so on and so forth. So today I'm really, really happy and very contented with the fact that this year we'll be touching close to about 100,000 people with skill development. And at least about 40% of them, 40 to 50% of them, we think we can get them the right jobs that they really deserve. This is a very, very small drop in the ocean. Skill development problem, as you know, is a huge problem. But that really for me is a conscious decision of saying, well, I could have remained with Brindley's Bank, which is the first opportunity I had from the campus. And later on, again, I navigated towards banking to be with HSBC. So these are all, phenomenal opportunities I got. But the calling, sometimes I think it is important for us to listen to your inner voice. And that calling could be different for different people. For Rajiv, it would have been, building an enterprise, making it profitable, and thereafter giving that to charity. But for me, the calling was to see how I could impact people through a business model which is self-sustainable, and yet it continues to make an impact and continues to have the ability to bring together people who are committed towards making this impact. And therefore, the values that we have written for our organization, one of the critical values is empathy. So this is something that we constantly look for while hiring them, while grooming them, while orienting them. When you enter into a class, when you are interacting with a student, we are talking about those individuals who have not been able to make a successful career on their own, and that's why they are turning to us. Therefore, we need to have that empathy, we need to have that understanding, and we need to be really responsible for these individuals. So these are some of the values in our small way we are trying to inculcate with the teams that we have, and through them communicate these values to the people at large that we are trying to impact. So I'll stop here and I'll be happy to take more questions and share further perspectives as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Uma Ganesh. So next I would like to invite Alok Kumar from CS India. So, Alok is a dear friend of mine. He was such a pleasant experience when I arrived in Pune. So, effectively, I'm working on setting up a captive for an American company in Pune. And almost anyone I spoke to, first they said, "Have you spoken to Alok?" So that gave me some idea that Alok is a great mentor, leader and coach for all the budding entrepreneurs, captives, so that we have more and more businesses successfully set up in India. So he's the vice president, he's the managing director of Sears India. He has created the Sears captive through very, very, I would say, challenging periods and applied various business models that make a lot of sense in the hindsight, but he was the pioneer in thinking the way he was thinking about it. And it doesn't end over there. That's his day job. And then again, he's the blogger at night. He's also author of many books which are very thought-provoking. And when you speak to him, you feel like you have found a long-lost friend, although he's so senior in his company. So he has done his MS from Birla Institute of Management. He has done his BTech from National Institute of Technology. And on a long weekend, just like how we all defied the urge to see the cricket match, he has promised his time over here to speak to us. So please welcome him.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and thank you so much, Swamiji, for giving so thought-provoking inputs to us. So just a question to all of you. How many of you know Samuel Langley? Anybody here? 2, 3 people, right? How many of you know Wright brothers? Almost everyone, right? Imagine Samuel Langley was the chosen one, not by the God, but by the government of America to create an airplane. And who did it? The Wright brothers. The world knows about them. And I don't think so anybody knows about Samuel except for few learned people, right, who are, and somebody has to take, a lot of time to understand who is this guy. The fact is, during those time, 1900s, he was the person, press was chasing. Government of US gave huge grants to that person to make sure that he creates an airplane. And he always used to boast, I am the head of the airplane initiative of government of US. I'm the boss, I'm the head. And quietly somewhere, nobody gave any, nobody bothered about Wright brothers. No press, nobody chasing them. They were quietly working. And they did. What was the difference between these two people? And I think that would give us a big relevance of what I'm just trying to tell. The only difference was the belief. Now, my introduction here was given as I am the MD and Vice President of Sears India. And I think when we go to parties, we meet people, the first question we normally ask to the people whom we don't know. So, by the way, what do you do? Right? How many of us don't ask this question? Very, very few. By the way, what do you do? And our answer is, yes, I am Vice President, I am MD, or I am Manager. And if somebody is very small, I am a Java developer with Sears, and it goes on like that. So we all focus on the top layer, what we do. We just focus on what we do, and at the most, how we do. Rarely, why we do. And that's where the issue starts coming. If somebody asks me, why you do what you do? I think if I had been a couple of years back, I would be scratching my head. Well, because I have been appointed by someone. Well, but why they have appointed? Because they have some business to do. They want some cost reduction. But why do they want that? And then after some time you say, hey, hang on. Don't pester me so much, I am the boss. Over. And if you have to ask a question, go ask somebody who created me here. Now, this is the same thing which each and every one keeps bothering us, They are all bothered and we are all bothered, and the whole society looks at what we are. And that's where the world starts becoming shallower and shallower by day. If we start looking at why we do it, the most successful company in the world, we know about Apple, right? You name, Tesla, and there are not one but multiple such companies. Tesla, I was just reading, what is their mission? They say, we are into innovation of energy. What do you mean by that? They create cars, by the way, but then they innovate energy. The utilization of energy is such a way that you don't require petrol or fuel to run the car. And they will create batteries whereby energies can be made different way. What did Apple say? Apple said, we believe that there is nothing called status quo. We believe that everyone has a right to do something which is more innovative, create something which has not been done, and give them an experience which they have not got so far. And by the way, how do we do it? We have great engineers. We have the best brains in the world. And what do we do? By the way, we also create computers and we create iPhones, and this is where whatever Apple does, even if they go and make probably a napkin the other day, it will sell because it comes from their belief. They want to create something very innovative, different. But how many of us know that Dell created first MP3 player? Nobody. Because they started from the top. What do? We create computers, or we create MP3 player, we will create camera, we will create this. And nobody goes there. Nobody talks to them. Right? Because everyone, the right leadership starts from the belief and not from what we do. And this is where we all, the true leaders, first of all start asking questions to ourselves. Why we do what we do? And believe me, it's very difficult to get an answer. Then I started, I asked all my colleagues, I asked all my people, let's redesignate ourselves. We are not VPs, we are not MDs, we are not CEOs. We have a different purpose. What do we believe in? And after a long thought, the thought came, I am in the business of creating entrepreneurs. I am in the business of creating jobs. I am in the business of giving happiness to people who are struggling for support, but they are innovative. And that's my profession. And I think that's how each and every one should start thinking. And that will be the true leadership. The day you can really define your belief, you can really define what you stand for, you start becoming a true leader. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alok. So I would like to invite Dr. Ganesh Natarajan as next. I'm again very honored to introduce Dr. Ganesh Natarajan. He is the Vice Chairman of Zensar Technologies. Those who have not yet should look at the book called as The Zensar Story. I was really positively impressed when I looked at that book about the story of an organization that is struggling so much. When Dr. Ganesh Natarajan takes over, it is extremely challenging situation, and how by using sound principles of management and leadership, he has turned that organization into a major success as of now. So I really recommend that. He is also the co-chair on National Knowledge Council. He is the member of Chairman's Council in NASSCOM. He heads the Innovation, IP and Knowledge part of the CII. Mr. Ganesh Natarajan was also the chairman of NASSCOM in year 2008 and 2009. He is a mechanical engineer with gold medal from BIT MESRA, that's MESRA, and also the gold medal is from Industrial Engineering College. So looks like gold medal is a common thing for him because it runs in the bio multiple times that he was the gold medalist. So please give him a big hand and hear from him.
Thank you very much, Ganesh, and I think many of you know me in this room, so I will not bore you with more of an introduction. But what you probably don't know is I grew up in a very little village in India. It's called Tatisilvai, which is about 8 kilometers from the city of Ranchi. So I'm very delighted that the cricket captain of IPL Pune is from Ranchi. The municipal commissioner is from Ranchi. So we have a lot of Ranchi guys trying to do good stuff in Pune. And the reason I mention this is I grew up, as I said, in this little village. My father obviously was South Indian, but he moved from a little village in South India called Badivishwaram near Nagarkoil district. And he had moved to Calcutta because my grandfather was, like many of us, come from very meager backgrounds. He was a school teacher in this little South Indian village. And he was very prolific in the production of children. So he had 17 children, and out of which 11 survived. And my father, being the eldest son, had the onerous task of bringing the entire family, one child at a time, to Calcutta, get 7 sisters married, 3 brothers into jobs, and it was tough. So I mean, if I had been him, I would have probably collapsed under the weight. But everything I remember of my father was this completely sunny personality. For him, good was not an option. It had to be done. So even while we were really in humble, I mean, I still remember once in 3 months in Ranchi, we would actually go to a small restaurant and have a vegetable cutlet. Now for us, that was the highlight of our lives. And today when we look at the way people spend money, we all look at it and say, my God, what's happening in this city? But what was more important was that we talk about 10% of 2% CSR and 10% of salary. For him, if he could take care of his wife and 2 children and make sure they were happy, everything else would go to charity. So he was a great believer in the Ramakrishna mission. In fact, I grew up, saying all the speeches of Swami Vivekananda, and even today I know most of Swami Vivekananda's speeches literally by heart. He also set up next to the little factory he was running a Seva Kendra, which was again part of the Ramakrishna mission, where he used to get close to 150 village children every afternoon, 3 hours. As soon as we came from school, my sister and I, we would also go to the Seva Kendra. And for 3 hours every afternoon, we would sing patriotic songs. We'd have this, milk drinking session with the other kids. And we grew up saying, this is India. So for me, when people say there is a India and there is a Bharat, it's true, many of our children don't know what the real Bharat is. But we grew up in the real Bharat. And we know what it takes. Uma said it so nicely. We know what it takes to take 300 million people to be skilled and employed. Today, if you look at Times of India, they're saying the biggest issue in India is there are no jobs. And there is a big social issue we come from. And that is the background I come from. So through my career, whether I did my industrial engineering or IIT Bombay PhD or Harvard Business School, I've never forgotten that we all come from these small parts of India and we owe it to people to be successful. So if I fast forward to the question that I think Vishwas so rightly asked Maharaji, that if you're a small company, at what stage do you start doing good work? So for me, that's never been a question, because I know my father did it when Waxpol Industries, the company he set up, was really, really small in Ranchi. And for him, there was no question of waiting for something. So I remember when I came to Pune in 2001, with all the hubris and all the arrogance of having been a very successful CEO, running a company called Aptech, which we grew to from a non-entity to 42 countries, 1,000 training centers, etc., etc. And I remember we got this first group of, at that time Zensar was 40 crores and 400 people in the place where the Phoenix Mall is in Pune. And I remember getting about 40 of these people together and saying, look, what do we want to achieve? And naturally everybody, somebody said we want to only work with Fortune 500 companies. Somebody else said that, look, we want to be 10 times in the next 10 years from 40 crores, we want to be 400 crores, etc., etc. One little girl raised her hand. And I still remember her name. She was Bakul Deshpande. Bakul was, she was a master's in social science from Pune University. And I said, Bakul, what do you want, Zensar? She said, look, we are operating in this little arc between Kharadi, which was just coming at that time, and Koregaon Park. She said, how about we give a mission to ourselves, saying we will put a smile on the face of every girl child between Kharadi and Koregaon Park. And we all stood and applauded Bakul Deshpande. She was 22 years old, but she had that vision. So since then, and if you ever read this book called Startup to Global Success, you will find that we exceeded all our goals. The 400 crore dream we shattered in 5 years. Today Zensar is a 3,000 crore company, employs 8,500 people, and we've kind of pretty much achieved all the profit goals. But throughout, I think we've been very empowered by what you said, Maharaji, and what I believe even Jack Welch said. For instance, if you look at Jack Welch's most famous statement, he said that narrow pursuit of shareholder value is the dumbest idea in the world. Not that shareholder value is not important, don't get me wrong. But if that's all you do, for heaven's sake, neither is your shareholder going to be happy, nor is your customer going to be happy, nor is society going to be happy. And throughout the last 15 years, we've been constantly practicing what is today called the triple bottom line. Don't forget the profits, but by all means focus on people. You've got to hold your team together. People have to believe that there is something that you stand for as an individual, as a corporation, that is way beyond just the narrow pursuit of profit and shareholder value and planet. My biggest guru when it comes to environment, social protection is our own Member of Parliament from Pune, Mrs. Vandana Chavan. And Vandana has been my inspiration right from the early days when we worked with her NGO, Alert, and actually started doing good work in the city. Many of you come from the east side of Pune, the whole Viman Nagar Biodiversity Park. She encouraged us to go approach the municipal corporation, take it over, transform it, make something happen that the citizens of Pune will be proud of. And today when we say that we invest almost 5% of our profits, which is close to now 8 crores in CSR, way beyond what the government says, we are proud about it. And we say like people like Vandana would inspire us. This morning if you picked up Indian Express, you would have read about one of the Deputy Municipal Commissioners, Anil Pawar, talking about the Lighthouse program of PMC. It happened 6 months back because we had set up a little lighthouse inside our campus in Zensar. And the purpose of the lighthouse was very simple. We said, look, while we may be very, as a management team, very social oriented, good oriented, we want every Zensarian to think social. And we set ourselves another little target, this is 2 years back, that 15% of our employees, at that time it was 6,000 people, were involved in social activity. We said, let's make it 20%. So we set up the lighthouse just to empower people to say that, look, do good work, and this is the kind of rewards you can get, not monetary, but just in really feeling good about yourself. And I remember Kunal Kumar, who was our municipal commissioner, who's of course today in the news for all the wrong reasons, but Kunal came to visit us once, and I took him to the lighthouse. And Kunal said, boss, let's make this happen in Pune. So when today you hear Anil Pawar talking about the 20 lighthouse program, it actually started in a meeting in my office. And then we said, and this is really, I'm going to end with this, we said, look, if there is so much good that is possible in this little microcosm called Pune, if we can set up 20 lighthouses that can change the future of 50,000 people in the city, and don't forget 65% of our city lives in the slums, and all these people are expecting to have the same agency, the same capability that any of us will obviously treat. So that's when we said that let's set up this entity called Pune City Connect, and I'm going to make a sales pitch for the biggest social activity I'm involved in. And we said let's set up Pune City Connect because there's no way the municipal corporation will find all the money it takes to do good. So we decided, I mean, when I say we, there is a whole bunch of us. There's Rahul Kirloskar, there's Anuaga, there's Mayor Padamji, there is the Wakefield. So we have a lot of people, Rahul Bajaj, Baba Kalyani. And we said, let's get together and create something which will take some tracks. For instance, Swachh, for instance, digital literacy in the city of Pune, for instance, transforming 400 municipal schools and really giving them much better quality of education, where you and I should be one day proud to send our child to a municipal school rather than to some IB school somewhere. And now of course we're looking at multiple tracks. And we said Pune City Connect should work with the municipal corporation. We should be the invisible force behind the goodness of good. And we said you'll be surprised. I mean, initially when I said, look, where are we going to get the money from? People actually started calling me and said, how much money do you need? We have CSR funds, we have other funds. I mean, today we have access, I would believe, to a minimum of 25 to 30 crores next year, just for going good in the city. So the pitch I'm making to you is, there's good happening all around us. Let's change the lens of cynicism that all of us naturally have. Saying, oh, corporation kya karta hai? There's so much of bad happening. There's a lot of people wanting to do good things. So whether it's our members of parliament, whether it's our corporation, whether it's people, there are always something that you can find which is good. There's good you can find in every industrialist in the city. But if we ourselves, each one of us may have some money, we may not have the money, we may have the time, but if we come forward and say, let us collectively build a good environment for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren. My belief is not only the city of Pune, but even our country with all its divisiveness and all its problems and the corporate sector can make this world a much better place to live in. Don't forget what Gandhiji once said. He said, find purpose and the means will follow. I'm seeing this happening, playing out every day in my life. Okay, and that minute you have purpose means just commit. And I'll end with my favorite quote from Swami Vivekananda, which was really at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago, where he went and started with those wonderful words which a lot of America still remembers, where everybody was saying, good evening ladies and gentlemen. He started his address by saying, sisters and brothers of America. And if any of you listen to that thing, I mean, that was what really got people excited. And he ended by saying something which is so important. It's true for our children, it's true for each one of us. It's true for bringing out the agency in each one of us. It said, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. We have big goals. Let's take small steps to make it happen. Thank you very much.
Dr. Ganesh, thank you for the profound talk. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Vishwas Mahajan. And a quick introduction is, again, I'm very honored. He's a co-founder and ex-CEO of CompuLink System Limited. And that's one of the early industry stages software product companies. So when the software industry started in India, there were not many product companies, software product companies. So that was one of the early ones. He's also on the global board of trustees for TIE, the entrepreneurs organization around the world. He has done his MBA from the Symbiosis. He was the distinguished alumni of his alma mater, and he's also doing PhD on the merger and acquisitions. He has 3 more ventures: Lifeline Systex, Software Product Venture, and Altitude. Also the CompuLink Academy, which talks about skill generation. He's also the director at Talent Track. He's an angel investor. Vishwas is married to Smita, a Bharatnatyam dancer, teacher, and he has 2 wonderful daughters. So we welcome Vishwas to give us a talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganesh. It's like in a cricket match after Virendra, Sehwag and Virat Kohli have done their job. Dhoni has done the job. We have big score on the board, and now we have the last few players. And I feel like that because a lot of things have been spoken. And it's very hard to beat and bring out thoughts after such poignant thought process has been revealed by very eminent speakers here. Every time I notice that every time we talk about being good, we go back into our own minds, our own history, our own being, and look at what life goodness has been to us. I just reflected while I was hearing Swamiji, Uma, Ganesh. Every time we think of something good, we have a role model in our mind, someone that has really inspired us and that has brought us to where we are today. And we may not talk about it all the time unless an opportunity like this comes up. And I thought about my great granduncle, in fact, who brought me up as a 7-year-old orphan who he took on, and he was a freedom fighter himself, and he had the opportunity of becoming a political leader. But in Yeroda jail, when he was walking with Gandhiji and the freedom was imminent, he asked Gandhiji, what should I be doing? And Gandhiji said, look, don't get into politics. Get into promoting Hindi as a means of national integration. And he gave his life, and I saw him giving his entire life to this cause with zero attention by others, leave alone the money and things. So I think when somebody looks at what goodness is, these are the examples that we think of. I also founded a company, exited, etc. And I thought one of the ways to give back is to help young entrepreneurs. And TIE is a perfect platform for that. Many of you, I've had the privilege of associating myself through this platform. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs. I see a lot of entrepreneurs at early stage who are definitely a large mass of people that we need to influence with the philosophy, Swamiji, that you brought about. As entrepreneurs, I have not seen one entrepreneur who starts a business, a venture, with the intent of not doing good. I haven't seen one. I have seen entrepreneurs being extremely positive. And of course, among the Sattva, Raja and Tam, they are more Rajogun at the beginning, definitely, and they ought to be. But they have always started with an intent to solve a problem. And the problem can be small, big, it can be personal, it can be societal, it could be technological, it could be whatever. They have started to solve a problem. Unfortunately today, our education does not allow us to look at problems. No, we are always told to memorize solutions and not look at problems, question problems. But I see entrepreneurs looking at a small sliver of that problem and trying to create a business opportunity out of it. And they all mean good. They give up a lot to be entrepreneur. They could have been some different person. They could have been, employed. They could have been some other profession. But they give a lot of. There is a whole philosophy that they work on, which is they delay the gratification. And I think when somebody can delay the gratification, that's a hallmark of being good. You are willing to give short-term pleasures and gratification for something potentially large in the long term. I am reminded, Guy Kawasaki, who is the guru in startups, wrote in his book, you start business, you start an enterprise, be an entrepreneur, not for making money, but to make meaning. Because if an enterprise starts, takes shape, is born to make meaning, it will make money. But if it is born to solely make money, then it is likely to attract wrong kind of stakeholders. Whether it's employees, investors, customers, whatever. But the moment you step back and say, no, I'm here to solve a problem. And I have seen people looking at solving really, really huge societal problems, healthcare, sanitation, you name it, young entrepreneurs. And I see this change over a period of time. I think we are like some of the Western societies, and you say second generation, third generation, businessmen who have seen what wealth is, who have experienced the abundance as opposed to scarcity. When you are coming from a scarcity mindset, you act differently. And when you come from an abundance mindset, you act differently. So there, I do see a lot of young entrepreneurs who are now looking at doing good, creating social enterprises. Even today on the TV, just like Shark Tank, you must have seen Shark Tank, there is an Indian equivalent of Shark Tank, but for social enterprises. I think entrepreneurs are here to change the world, and if we allow a social meaning to the whole enterprise and create heroes. Today, whom do we see as heroes? Sometimes we always rue the fact that we lack role models. What do we see on TV? What do we see elsewhere? But if these role models get created, they get talked about, it influences positively everybody else around in the system. I think we have a change to make here. We have a mission to make sure that the entrepreneurs, the businessmen, and that's the topic today, have the opportunity to look at the wisdom that exists, apply that, and create meaning. In TiECon, which is arguably the world's largest gathering of entrepreneurs, in Pune we have a TiECon, Swamiji, next month, and I would certainly like to invite you. But every year in the TiECon, we do have Ronnie Screwwalas of the world, and we have very, very successful businessmen. But believe it or not, the most popular sessions are those that relate to doing good. We always have social entrepreneurs who talk about what is the scale of problem they are solving at a considerable difficulty to themselves personally, but with a vision to do something good. We get speakers like Devdutt Patnaik and others who actually create mythology and relate mythology to business. Now, that's a very powerful idiom because we have been brought up hearing stories of mythology. We can instinctively know what Ram stands for and what Ravan stands for. In our own minds, it's in our blood. So when a story from mythology comes and it relates to business, people relate it very differently. They understand it, interpret it very differently. So we need more stories like this. We need people to relate to these things even more as they do their business. And I hope that the initiative that Artha Forum that is doing and some others not only encourage the businessmen that have arrived to do good, absolutely, but the aspiring businesses to find meaning in what they want to do and what they will do in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vishwas, for the inspiring talk. So at this point, I would invite all the panel speakers to take their seats on the forum and also open the floor for any questions that you may have. We have 2 microphones. One would be for the panel speakers. And one I will pass it on to whoever has a question. Okay, we'll start with Pawan.
small question. I heard a lot of thought-provoking ideas and the experiences from life and your individuals or that you have seen across in your different parts of life. We talked about business has to do charity. Business has to do charity. So that theme was running across. Business has to do social reformation. If I look at business, okay, so business is basically the initial objective is to make profit. Whosoever individual may do business, partnership firm, and over a period of time the formation of the organization has changed significantly. Finally, whatever profit comes is resting in the hands of individual, whether they are promoters, partners, shareholders, or any stakeholders, right? So everybody gets their share of the whatever is the outcome of it. Business stands for a purpose, for solving problems, for servicing a particular need of the society, and that's how business finds its foothold in the overall social setup. So why is it that we are actually loading this requirement of philanthropy on business, not but on the people who are actually getting their piece of the profit or salaries or government as taxes or those kind of things? Why is it necessary for business to be into philanthropy rather than the individuals who are running the business to be doing the philanthropy in their individual capacities?
You have a preference on who should answer?
I will leave.
You said something.
No, actually, I mean, it's an interesting question you're asking, and this keeps coming up, and I've actually even seen this in national councils of various large associations. We even discuss this in the World Economic Forum, by the way. I think the simple answer to your question is that any entity which is a collection of individuals, and that is true whether it's a business, it's an association, it's a municipal corporation, it's a government, whether it's a central or state government, are ultimately a collection of individuals. And when we work together, we generate some revenues and profits. So for instance, I'll give you an example. Like, your point is right, because today we also have a forum in Pune called Social Venture Partners. And when people say, what is Social Venture Partners? We say we want to work with 20 NGOs and really make them successful by giving individual capability as well as money. And then people say, can I write a check from my company? I say, no, this is what you're saying. You have individual capability, individual wealth, individual time. We want that. Okay, so that's one. Then there are entities like there's a Pune City Clinic, which is corporate. So my belief is, to a quick answer to your question, is that I think it is worthwhile wherever we get an opportunity to do good. Why am I saying businesses must also look at doing good? Because we have many, like in our company, we have many young people in the age group of 20 to 28 who are getting a chance to do good, partly in their time, partly in company time, which they would otherwise not have considered doing. If, look, I'm just making a salary of 10 lakhs, I'm not going to give money, but I'm going to give time. So whether it's time, intent, money, I think you'll probably find that if all of us can contribute, you'll find different ways for a individual Pawan to contribute, your company to contribute, the affiliations and associations you're part of. But if Pawan is a prime mover saying that, look, let all of us contribute, I think the collective sum of what we can do is probably more than just an individual or a business company. I know it's a complicated answer, but I'm saying everybody who can elevate the capabilities of our fellow beings, and we can do it in constructive manners, given what our own capabilities are, I think that will add to the quantum of good on this planet. That's where I'm coming.
Thank you, Anish.
So Pawan, I have a slightly different perspective. I think it all depends on what stage of business you're in. As a business, your first requirement is to find your feet and survive and grow. Some of the things actually come as a part of responsibility as you grow. I think it would not be right to put too much focus at the early stage of your business on the financial aspect of it. However, let me tell you how some of this is also helping the business itself. I'll give you an example. A small young company doesn't have money to pay, top scale for IIT or whatever graduates. It's not large enough it's a brand to attract people. But it has an ability to distinguish itself in the eyes of its employees, in the eyes of its customers, by creating some meaning that they can project. A small company that I know of and I'm very close to actually said, look, we are a group of people who we do software, blah, 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 but we spend 5 to 10% of our time in helping orphans learn computers. It's a small team of 15 people. They are not, it's not even a blip on anybody's radar. But by doing so, they are actually attracting the right kind of people. By doing so, they are attracting the right kind of customers. So, it need not be that I will give X amount. They are not even profitable. It's not about actually, giving as in giving. But you just think of it. If this business did not differentiate itself in this manner, it would be very hard. It will be another undifferentiated, undistinguished business doing just things that 10,000 people are doing. It would find it hard to get customers. It would find it hard to get employees. So for your own sake, you might want to find something like this because people like to associate with the purpose.
Thank you. So we have 30 more minutes, so maybe we can take maybe 3 more questions. There's not one raising his hand. So next.
This question is for Swamiji. I'm a lifelong student of leadership development. I try to read up, follow, listen, and so on. So you ended your talk by saying that an ideal combination of talent could be to have the first guna, the goodness, with a choice sprinkling of characteristics from the second, from the passion. In your view, at what stage or what kind of a challenge would it be for corporations to be able to inculcate such behavior, such mix in people who are already adults, who already have their gunas formed, set in their views?
Thank you. It starts from the top. So the leaders who run the organization set the standard for certain values, certain principles, and that is enshrined in the working of the organization, in the principles, and the leaders actually live up to that. Then the rest of the organization comes and follows by inspiration. Even if it is not done as a rule, as a regulation, it's all a matter of inspiring by setting good examples. So when the people on the top set a good example, people are inclined to follow. That's the whole principle.
Thank you, Swamiji. Next question is by Mr. Sandeep.
Namaskar, Swamiji. The question is to you for your insights as well as to all the panel members for their experience. Basically, we work with companies to transform them. One of that is growth. And when we meet right from startups to corporate and people who are either entrepreneurs or leaders, one of the things that we see a lot, and I again refer the Bhagavad Gita, wherein we talk about divine qualities of Abhayam, Sattva Samshuddhi, and if Sattva Samshuddhi is what you talked about, the Sattva Gunas, in today's context of disruptions which are creating destructions, there is a lot of fear. And unless we remove the fear of competition, fear of lacking behind, fear of n number of things, unless we remove the fear state of Abhay, we can't really create Sattva Samshuddhi. So while it is good to be on the Sattva side, the Rajas and Tamas keep on attracting and pulling us down. And the experiences of other panelists in terms of how they overcome their fear whenever it was and whatever it was. Thank you.
Sattva is very strong. It is not very flamboyant, but it is very strong. Rajas is very flamboyant, so it becomes noticed very easily. It attracts people. It's got charisma. Ignorance is also extremely noticeable for its destructive effect. But because Sattva is not noticed so much, it doesn't get the kind of importance it deserves. So therefore, if we promote sattva as a necessary ingredient, the essential ingredient for our corporate culture, then automatically it will take care of these other aspects. Undoubtedly there are problems of competition and many other issues, but we have examples even today, and amongst on the panel members we have heard from these speeches, how if you run according to certain principles and with certain pure motives, you transcend the whole problems and the fear that arise due to competition and so on. So that is never an issue that one can give up sattva because there is competition. On the contrary, in an environment like that, when somebody comes up with a genuine example, people will go regardless of the competition.
I'd like to just add to what Swamiji said. I think whether it is business or individuals, if we want to be successful, if we really look at the purpose of what we are trying to do, as I think Alok so beautifully brought about in his speech, and not really be there because we want to earn money. That I think is one of the challenges for most individuals in organizations. At the organization level, maybe this is understood to some extent, as some of the speakers brought about, but for most young people, that is really the struggle. I'm here to earn X versus somebody else who's already earning Y. And how do I really deal with that conflict in my mind? And what is a handle I could provide to those individuals as an organization, that if you just focus on the pursuit of perfection and excellence, money will come, or you will get what you deserve. That is the level of maturity that I think we as leaders will have to drive home. It's difficult, but that is what I think as leaders, if we have trying to make a difference, if we can instill that consciousness in our employees, we would have made some beginning.
Thank you, Kusuma. So we'll take one final question. We see one hand over here.
So thank you. So there are two models that we heard, that make a lot of money and then give it to charity is one model. The other model is like you create an enterprise which actually does good for the society. My question is, especially you, Vishwas, you said about a lot of social good and social entrepreneurs coming in TICON. How to make it guilt-free? Because I don't know, like, especially in Indian context, if I'm running a social enterprise, won't I feel guilty of making my life comfortable while doing a social cause, like making money out of a social enterprise? Is that a challenge? That is, I don't know whether it is the right question, but making money out of social enterprise, because we have these two models where you give up everything, take a jola and do the social work. That is not very scalable. And on the other hand, we have CEOs of charitable organizations earning thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and making a difference. How do we reconcile that?
No, I think it's a fantastic question. I can just answer from my perspective, and then Vishwas could add on to that. See, it really depends upon the leaders, it depends upon the organization's culture. For me, if you're really engaged with a particular cause, you have to become one with that cause. If we see ourselves as an agent, then I think the way we will conduct ourselves, the way we utilize those returns from the business, they will be reflecting on our genuineness for what we are really committed for. So a small example is, for instance, we travel, we have projects, work happening across the country. So when I'm committed to this particular cause, I think that if you travel by train, and if it means that you need to take advantage of the facility which is available maybe in the railway station, these things are okay to do. Whether how you utilize those funds eventually to make an impact, if that is basically your goal, then you reorient your lifestyle while you're committed to that cause. So as I said, it really depends upon the mindset of individuals, but that's a small effort I think we should be prepared to do if you're really committed to that cause?
So I think the difference that we need to draw between an NGO or a charitable organization versus a social enterprise. Both do primarily good things, okay? But I think the model in which they exist is very different. Most social organizations, charitable organizations exist to do good based on charity. The input to them, the resource for them is a charity from others, and usually the energy of the people who drive it. The challenge in this is the scalability. Two things can happen. The resource can dry up and the energy, for whatever reason, can also come down. This means a death knell to this. I just read that in Maharashtra, lakhs of charitable organizations registered as trusts have ceased to do anything, and a very small percentage of them exist and continue to do their work. And you can just, it doesn't take rocket science to figure that out. On the other hand, the social enterprise, as we call it, the social entrepreneurship, is actually also addressing the problems. Usually, this is by business people who try to find scalable solutions to similar problems, but for them, their own sustainability is prime importance, because if they don't sustain, then they don't exist. You can have lakhs of charitable organizations on the books of the government doing nothing today, but for a business to do that is very hard. So I don't see a dichotomy in this at all. It's just the way in which this whole thing works, and whether it is Uma's company or many such companies and many such entrepreneurs who are very, very talented. They are very articulate. They do have a sense of mission, but also they are very savvy when it comes to actually understanding the pluses, minuses and finances and everything. Now, my counter question to the people is that I could have been running another organization or working for a very large corporation and having a certain standard of living, and I'm willing to give it up when I turn an entrepreneur by definition. Now, because I'm doing a social entrepreneurship, to what extent will it serve better if I'm at my best and really scale and serve the purpose that I have started this organization for, or cut corners, do small things and all that and still not achieve something? So it's no rocket science actually. I don't see a dichotomy in your question actually. I mean, if I've answered that.
Thank you.
So as I was trying to make that as the last question, I got a few taps on my shoulder. People want to ask more questions. So respecting that, if it is okay, we'll take a few more
May I
questions.
make one suggestion?
Yes.
The 3 or 4 people, why don't they each we take all the questions and then we take this answer.
Okay.
That's not
Yeah.
one-to-one.
So why don't we
Everybody else was
just go around asking questions? So just pass on the microphone. So we'll start with Madhuri here.
So this question is for everybody here and the panelists here. I actually started to write an article to post on my blog when I thought, when I have such great minds here, why not ask them directly and know the response. So schools nowadays are mostly started by passion to make riches, by builders and politicians. To give a background, I'm a school reviewer, and I think that's the most unique profession anybody has known about, where I go around knocking the doors and gates of the schools to understand what you do, and then I try to put it up on my blog to help parents. So what I think is that businesses who want to start giving should start looking at educational institutes, to consciously start at least one school in Pune that is driven by Vedanta and ancient knowledge to provide not just math, science, arts, but focus on skill development and consciousness. The children who have conscious parents are easy to set on the right channel like me. Our country needs this mind as we grow from the shallow world to a profound spiritual world, let's call these words, I just borrowed your lighthouse, and I said, let's call these schools as lighthouse of knowledge where there is no boundary. So can we have you and or anybody from this forum join hands together to at least start discussing about this kind of school where parents who are conscious and definitely want to send their children to such schools which do not run for marks?
Yeah, I have a similar question.
So we'll continue adding questions like Ganeshan said, and then at the end we would expect the panelists to summarize their realizations, and after that there would be a couple of announcements, and then we'll head on to the dinner if that's okay.
Right.
So we'll go around collecting the questions.
I have a similar question to what Madhuri said from a different perspective in terms of resources. So I belong to a Malayali community, and I can tell you there are about 21 Ayyappa temples in Pune. And in terms of education, every time I meet a person in one of these temples, he comes to me and says, I want my kid to be admitted to a good school. And generally, the good school means is a convent school. And there are around equal amount of churches in Pune, which are run by the Christian community, and in terms of numbers, they are far less, maybe about 10% or 20% of what this Malayali community is. And I can very confidently tell you, in terms of resources and money, both communities do very well. But what happens with us is, we build a temple and we leave it at that. We don't go beyond that. So this question actually goes to the entire panel and also to Swamiji. At what point, will we start thinking more and do something more constructive than just build a temple and leave it at that? That was my question to you.
Thank you, Arun. Any questions? Okay. I'm just scanning so that I'm fair to everyone.
Hi, good evening all. My question is little different. I would share one experience which I had. I am from the place from Vidarbha, and where the education is like very lacking, and people don't promote much the child education as well. I got one relative. He had suffered from cancer, and his child was very good in paintings and drawings and sculpture. So he came to me and he said that, Dada, I want to learn and I want to go to some good school. So I promoted him and I got his admission to some hostel where I was doing my engineering. And he has really done a great job, and he has really finished his education in the government school in Aurangabad, done his bachelor's degree, and he has completed his master's from JJ School of Art. Because of that, I helped him from the time he had come to me till he got his master's degree in terms of his fees and everything. So I have done it for one person. And then there were some people who come to me and they were asking me about the admission to engineering and polytechnics and all. So I helped about 10 people, and out of that 10 people, 3 or 4 people are working with my organization. So I can proudly say that I made their career in engineering and the person's career in his interest. So I encouraged him to take the education, and I paid the fees from my pocket, and that is how he grew. So my question is that this was at very small scale. So if I would like to do it at large scale, large platform, so where should I approach, and if I would like to help more and more people, so I would like to join such kind of organization to do much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhaneshwar. Looking for questions?
So I have a question for Swamiji. Sir, you talked about the Sattva Gunas, and one thing that I was looking for, even as an entrepreneur who wants to do well while finding his feet, one word I was looking for was courage. I couldn't see that. Maybe I couldn't relate to it in the presentation and in your talk. So maybe if you can help me understand that, that will be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhushan. Any more questions?
In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. And he also says that the greatest service any individual or business can do to the community is doing Swadharma extremely well. So rather than thinking about corporate social responsibility as a separate activity of giving back after executing the business, why don't we integrate this into the process of executing the business by enabling every active participant in the business to fulfill his or her potential, be his or her best, and do the role that has been assigned in the best possible manner.
Thank you, Prasad. Any more questions? Okay, thank you. So now I request panelists to, yes, so we request Swamiji to summarize his realizations, but also we would like to hear parting realization of every panelist after that. Thank you.
Maybe we'll start from the last first, come around. Yes, yoga karma kaushalam, that yoga is the art of work. The art of work is not merely in doing work, but also in developing a sense of detachment from the fruits of one's work. And a part of the process of being detached from the fruits of the work is to offer those fruits to some higher purpose, not just for oneself, which is where the fruits are not only money, as Vishwas has rightly said. It's not just money, there's effort, there's many other things. But offering the fruits of the work can be done in so many ways. So that is part of the whole process. It's not only just a question of doing your duty properly. I think we'll take the other questions as we go on, and I'll give it to the other participants in the panel.
Actually, if we really were to think about, I'll pick up that question around schools. Can we set up a school which has a different kind of a motivation and orientation? I completely agree that we need that sort of education, and if we really go back to the earlier era where we were connected, or some small segment of the society was connected to the Vedas and to the truths of life, and therefore we believe that we had a much more peaceful society in the past. It is a pity that in our current education system we do not have that space to introduce our children to all of these concepts, because as you rightly said, we have a different motive of different definition of success. So this is something which I feel very strongly also about, and happy to see in what way we can support this initiative.
I'll just pick up a thought that Dhaneshwar raised in his question. See, if you just look into your own lives, anybody's life, it is very hard for you to say that all that I have done is credited solely to myself. There are so many things, so many people that have helped each one of us to come to the stage that we have come. In fact, they have conspired so that we are at a stage that we are today. Now, the point is, how do I give back to those people that have made me who I am today? It could be small acts. If you are a business, it is the first customer that trusted you and give you an order. Now, how can you help that person or that company? Maybe no. In Marathi, Mangesh Padgaonkar has a very nice poem. It says, देणाऱ्याने देत जावे, घेणाऱ्याने घेत जावे, देता देता घेता घेता एक दिवस देणाऱ्याचे हात घ्यावे. Means that there are givers and there are takers. That's what the world is about. Now, if you are a giver and if you are a taker, you keep taking from the giver. Yes, but once you keep taking, what you should do down the line is to देणाऱ्याचे हात घ्या, means take the hands of the guy, not literally hands, is the ability to give. So there is always a food chain, if you will. If you take a biological, simile of giving and taking, giving and taking, giving and taking. It's a complex, interactions that happen. As long as you're conscious of that, and you know that I have been a taker some part of my life, and then how do I give it back? And maybe not to the same individual. What can you give back to the person who has given to you? You learned so many things from so many people, and you can't go back and teach them. But what can you do to the people who are now takers and encourage them to be givers? I think that's the cycle that we need to encourage. If I can kind of elaborate your point that you mentioned.
To answer to your queries of school, whether we should have something, I think I have a slightly different ideas on that. See, the first school and the last school of a child is always the home and the parents. And I think the education starts from there. But nowadays, because of the work pressure and the pressure to earn money, people ignore the most basic school and ask children to go to coaching and everywhere. And we are surprised to find that when children grow up, they do not actually take any of the the lessons and the feelings what we have as individuals. And then we start lamenting, see what we did, it's the child has gone totally different direction. And I think the most important thing is starting from our home and creating that as a moment, that how we educate our children the way it used to be done in the earlier times. I know my mother, I know my grandmother, they used to every day teach us, read us stories from Ramayana, Mahabharata, and how much we do as individuals today. I know there is a community called Bori community, the Muslim Bori community. They have a school which is run every week, which is outside the school. So the children of their families go there and learn the culture and the good things about their community, what to do. And they don't teach religion. They simply teach the good practices of what human beings should do. And it's a very good initiative for a community. Why can't we start something which is small? And I think by replacing the existing school, it will not be scalable. It will have too much of resistance. But by adding on to it, certainly it will make a big difference. Because everybody wants it, but they don't know how to do it. It can start from one single home and can spread very fast. Remember, India is a country where I think the only country where you see fast food restaurants actually going down. You may not be knowing that, but fast food restaurant sales is going down year by year. This is called, we call as a Baba Ramdev effect, because one person started telling that, the fast food is not good, this is not good, and today subconsciously everybody has started feeling, no, we should not eat that, and you see the outcome. So everybody can be equivalent to Baba Ramdev here. You take a call, and I think I'll join for sure if something happens like that.
I'll just touch on the point that the gentleman from Vidarbha actually talked about, but because we are all doing good work in our own right, and we get worried that do we have platforms by which what we are doing, like he rightly said, can we scale that? That's very important. I still remember about 4 months back, about 20 of us went and met Prime Minister Modi, and he told us, look, all of you are doing such great work in IT. Why don't you take a simple challenge that many of you came from small towns, then you go back to the school where you studied, and if nothing else, donate a digital library so our children can be more aware. So we've all taken up that very seriously. And then since I'm also chairman of NASSCOM Foundation, we said, look, why don't we do it on scale? So I remember we went and talked to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in Seattle, and we had a series of presentations. And they said, yes, we are quite willing to support the whole libraries program. So then we said, okay, please let us know what you can do. And we thought maybe we'll get $500,000. They actually gave us $3.8 million. Okay. And it's just amazing how much money can come if you identify your cause well. Same thing I mentioned this earlier on Pune City Connect and the platforms we're creating. So my suggestion to even your school's ideas, as I said briefly when I said earlier, that we're trying to transform 400 municipal schools. In fact, we're working with PMC to create what we call 35 model schools. And the model schools will ideally be places where we will send our children to, and not send them to some private school somewhere. So it's taking time. But I think at the end of the day, one of the reasons I'm now moving out of my role in Zensar, I'm focusing full time on a platform that I'm setting up called 5F World. And 5F is my mantra, which really stands for fast, focused, flexible, friendly and fun. And we're saying that look, any startup which is doing good stuff we should be able to help by mentoring, money, whatever it takes. Anybody who's working on skills, which is the second is, we should be able to make that happen. And the third is social. So I'm saying if we can make a substantial difference to platforms which are startups, which are doing work in skills and doing it for the social sector, we believe we can make transformation happen. And my last thought is before I came here, I was talking to a very young woman who works with me in Social Venture Partners and does absolutely phenomenal work. And I said, look, so what is the transition in your own life? And she's all of 33 years old and very, very successful in what she does. And she said, look, today, all I do is watch the clock. So I said, so what? She said, no, I'm so obsessed by time, everything is like a waste of time, I got to make things happen. So I know, she said, then I said, what's going to happen in your life? She said, I know when I go to the 40s, I'll be watching the calendar, I'll still be counting the days, maybe not the minutes, but I'll still be obsessed. And I want to be obsessed, as Vishwas rightly said, she wants to be very successful. But she says, a day must come when I must move towards two more C's from the clock and the calendar. One is calmness, that I must be able to think. I think Alok talked about the why. Why do we do what we do? What more can we do to make the why more effective? And finally she used the word which is I think the basis of this forum, and she says I must move towards consciousness. That then I'm consciously doing good by doing whatever it takes to build a community of good and scale that platform. So I think that is the kind of thinking we must all do for ourselves. I've been fascinated by the last 2 hours because there's so much thought, so much ideas that all of you have generated, and of course none better than Swamiji. But I think if all of us can go back and think, saying that look, in the next 2 years, what is the transition in our own life, in our own thinking that we want to do? Hopefully we'll make this world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganesh. So Swami, just a quick summary of your understanding, realizations, and what are the thoughts we should part with. So if you can quickly summarize it for us, that will be great. After that, I will have just 1 or 2 announcements and we'll get for the dinner.
I think the conclusion that one should always be very optimistic. One has heard so many good thoughts. We've had positive approaches to everything. We've had so much of cynicism, we have it in the society, but there are so many people doing good things and wanting to do more of good things. It's a question of bringing everybody together on platforms like this and pushing ahead. And I think that is the most encouraging part of coming together. Different sorts of views have been expressed, but everybody is more or less on a similar platform. And I think that is the encouraging thing. So I think we should go back with a very positive spirit that each in our own sphere, in our own circle of influence, can do as much as we can to generate positive energy and to do good. I think that's the summary of what I would like to say now. Thank you.
Thank you. So my little experience in last few days, me and some of my friends, we got together. We thought Artha Forum is a nice platform and we want to extend that to Pune because Pune is such a vibrant city that if there is something good in this world, it has to be present in Pune. And here is our experience of bringing you wonderful people together. Part of that was we didn't know who is sponsoring this event, how are we going to figure out the funding, what's going to happen. But we thought we will set the goal and the means will follow. And it just happened before we started this event. So Mr. Sanjay Balaram, who is traveling from Chennai just to attend this event, he thought of sponsoring this event. He's from the GAAV Technologies and they have decided to sponsor this event. So I would like to bring Sanjay to the platform and also say thank you, give him a token of appreciation. So please give him a big hand. So we also have a little token of appreciation for all the panel members, also for Sanjay.
That was not a question.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And we have one last gift that is for the founder of Artha Forum himself, that is Mr. Rajiv. And these are the pens which are engraved at arthaforum.com. So with that, I would like to also thank all the volunteers of Artha Forum, All of those are executives in the software IT companies, and as usual we know there is lots of work pressure, but they leverage their 13th hour available to make this event happen. So thank you very much. Please give them a big hand. And you can head on to the dinner.
Thank you, Ganesh. You've been a great host. Big hand for this guy. Very nice. Thank you. Nobody works.
I have people who work there.
Yes, I just wanted to know what's the mode in which one can get touch with you, because I know of a social enterprise.
No, by all means. In fact, you check out my website. It's 5fworld.com. Write to me. My mail is here.
Okay.
This site is expiring, so don't write on that.
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Sure.
Jazz
Oh, hi. How are you?
Good. Can I have your card, because last
probably will have my last card.
Okay. I think you have mine, that I can give you.
Just run out.
I'll share with you.
Thank you. But do write to me. I'm happy to do it. How are you doing? All well?
Good, yeah.
I teach English and I've written a book called How Not to Speak English.
Really?
Yes.
Can you please send me that book? I would love to.
Sure. I've got it in the car.
There are 4 or 5 of us who really pride ourselves on our English.
I think Artha provides a great forum, because there are many people in this world who are fed up of the only single-minded search for quest for money and want to do good for the planet. And if there is some way we can harness the energies of so many people in conscious capitalism, we really have the consciousness to do good for the world, I think we will make this world a better place. And I really congratulate Artha for taking this initiative and wish them all the best.
Ganesh, what was your take home for this session in particular?
I think the take home is that there are so many messages, so many learnings from our scriptures, from the learnings of original myths of India, for instance, that we can apply to everyday life. We get so obsessed in the corporate world that we forget that there are great roots in this country, and if we can rediscover our roots, I think we will make a better country and a better world.
Artha Forum has actually helped us think about some of these issues that we face in our day-to-day life. The conflicts in terms of should we be passionate about what you're doing? Should we be making money? Should we be actually spending that time on something useful? What are you here for? The purpose for which you are here on this earth? These are some of the questions which keep coming to our minds from time to time. And there are no easy answers to these questions. Artha Forum has given this wonderful platform where thinkers, intellectuals, spiritual gurus and common man, all of them come together and they think about these issues. You hear answers from different perspectives which you are able to internalize, and in your own mind you are able to reflect upon these to see in what way you can be a better individual and in what way you can be better connected to the society. So it's a great forum that Artha has given to all of us, and we should make the best use of this forum. So when I came to this forum, I thought I'm going to be interacting with a lot of business executives and people who have set up enterprises who are going to talk about how they are actually contributing towards charity. But this forum has given much more than just answer those questions about how businesses can contribute towards charity. It has really helped us reflect upon your own inner journey and think about what is good, what is passion, how do you balance between these two aspects in particular, and in your everyday life how you can practice these principles and become a better human being.
So I think this was the first time that I attended Artha Forum event. The thing that I really like is how you can actually make successful entrepreneurs who are giving back the role models for the entire community. Today's event was more on the the businesses, but I think there is an opportunity for creating this event a much larger platform and collaborating with lots of other like-minded organizations. I think this has to be a movement. This cannot
just remain an event. So I hope that Rajiv and the Artha Forum actually takes this as an idea that they can work on and actually grow it the way they have grown their own businesses and make significantly more impact than what they are making today. I'm really hoping that will happen.
English or Hindi?
Anything.
Artha Forum, I was not aware of this organization till I came to this place through my daughter. I came to know. The moment I saw the topic was the purpose and linked with the business. So I wanted to, because I am also in some business, so I just wanted to understand how my business can be purposeful and I can be conscious about my job. And I think after coming to this place and after seeing so many people interested in the social responsibility, which I personally also feel that it is one of the responsibility of the business, I have learnt a lot about this and I am really impressed with the job Artha Forum is doing in connecting all the people on one forum and guiding them in various fields. Thank you.